Good afternoon and welcome to Executive Planning Day. My name is Shayna and today I will be presenting on four topics that will help you strategize and make the optimal decision in the interest of the company Resorts World Sentosa. Let's begin with macroeconomics and a business cycle. A business cycle depicts the rise and fall in production of goods and services over time. We can use macroeconomic measures such as GDP growth rate, consumer price index, and unemployment rate to understand the cycle. GDP growth rate or gross domestic product growth rate is the percentage change in the real GDP that is measured either quarterly or annually. Gross domestic product represents the total value of goods and services produced during a specific period within a specific economy. It is a primary indicator of the nation's output and income and allows for measurements of living standards, economic growth, and can be used to determine whether an economy is experiencing recession or expansion. Next, we have Consumer Price Index, which is the measure of the price level of a fixed basket of goods and services based on the consumption pattern of a typical consumer. It is usually used as a measurement for inflation, which represents the growth in the overall level of prices in the economy. Lastly, we have unemployment rate, which is the percentage of people in the labor force who are unemployed. It is often used as a measurement for unemployment, which refers to the number of people in the workforce who are not working but actively seeking for a job. A complete business cycle is a period of expansion and contraction, where an expansion ranges from trough to peak and a contraction ranges from peak to trough. Increase in GDP growth rate would suggest economic growth as there is potential increase in consumer spending, investment, government spending, and net exports. This would indicate an expansion in the business cycle, while decrease in the growth rate would suggest a contraction as total production and employment falls. A rise in the consumer price index would signify a rising rate of inflation, indicating an expansion, while a fall in the index would indicate a lower rate of inflation or even deflation, suggesting a contraction in the business cycle. A fall in unemployment rate would suggest an expansion as total employment increases, while a rise in unemployment rate would indicate a contraction in the business cycle. Understanding the general economic conditions and how business cycle is affected will allow Resorts World Sentosa to better predict economic trends, mitigate risk, and capitalize on opportunity. Let's move on to tariffs and trade wars. Recently, with the election of President Trump in the United States, and trade wars have been a rising issue. The imposition of tariffs by US on Singapore exports meant that taxes on exports from Singapore to the US would increase. This makes exports from Singapore more expensive in the US market, making it less attractive and hence reducing demand for Singaporean goods in the US market. As a result, net export of Singapore would fall. This would result in the fall of aggregate demand, causing the aggregate demand curve to shift left, placing a downward pressure on price level and causing price level and real GDP to drop. However, over time, as price level falls, it could result in a fall in resource prices as employees and firms negotiate to maintain real wages. This would lower production costs, leading to a shift of the short-run aggregate supply curve towards the right, bringing the economy back to the long-run equilibrium. The imposition of tariffs by the US on Singapore and other nations could lead to a reduction in the trade volume, as US is one of the world's largest importers. The reduction in demand as a result of the tariffs would cause nations to export less to the US and reduce trade volume. Secondly, the imposition of tariffs by the US could also result in strained relations between the nations. The imposition of tariffs by the US may cause other nations to counter with retaliatory tariffs to balance the trade deficit. This could potentially lead to trade war between nations. The imposition of tariffs will also overrule any previous free trade agreement between nations as well, leading to strained diplomatic and economic relations between nations. Moreover, the imposition of tariffs could lead to a disruption in the global supply chain, as firms relying on imported goods could face higher prices, leading to lower efficiencies and delay in logistics. These can affect Resorts World Sentosa, as strained relations could reduce number of tourists in Singapore, while disruption in the supply chain could affect the logistics of Resorts World Sentosa suppliers, leading to a delay in the company's operations. Now we move on to behavioral economics. Behavioral economics is the application of human psychology to explain economic decisions. It considers human psychology it considers how human psychology influences the decision-making process and argues that individuals are only capable of making limited strategic decisions. Compared to traditional economics would only assume that individuals are rational and considers the benefit and cost of various activity before making optimal decisions. When choosing unhealthy food options over healthy food options, behavioral economics will come into place in explaining why individuals still choose unhealthy food options even when change is preferred. One explanation is the status quo bias, where individuals prefer to maintain current situation over change. Even though healthy food options provide plenty of benefits in the long term, people often turn to unhealthy food options due to its familiarity and ease compared to the uncertainty of benefits from healthy eating. Another explanation is the present bias preferences. People prioritize instant gratification of consuming unhealthy food, such as the taste and convenience of such food, even when the idea of healthy eating is preferred for its long term benefits. The instant gratification from consuming unhealthy food can override those future benefits, hence preventing change. Lastly, the framing effect. The framing effect shows how individuals change their choices based on how they are presented. For instance, most unhealthy foods, such as fast foods, are often marketed for being cheap and convenient. In contrast, healthy foods are often less convenient as they require more preparation and are often more expensive. Thus, this would likely increase the likelihood of people choosing unhealthy choices. Understanding behavioral economics will allow Resorts World Sentosa to strategically adjust their marketing and promotion strategy to attract customers and maximize their profits. Lastly, we have generative AI and inequality. Generative AI is artificial intelligence that creates content such as text, images, codes, and automates cognitive tasks traditionally performed by humans. Inequality refers to the uneven distribution of income and wealth amongst individuals, resulting in disparities in opportunities and pay. Generative AI can both increase and decrease inequality in the labor market. It can increase inequality in the labor market as it can result in job displacement. Routine cognitive jobs like data entry can be automated using AI, leading to displacement of such workers. Utilization of generative AI in the workplace will also widen the skill gap between lower skilled workers and higher skilled workers. As a result, higher skilled workers would see higher wages as compared to lower skilled workers, resulting in income disparities. This would result in a decrease in demand for labor, causing the demand curve to shift left, placing a downward pressure on the wages of lower skilled individuals and the equilibrium quantity of workers demanded to fall. AI can also decrease inequality as it can drive innovation when applied accordingly. Individuals may, with the help of AI, innovate and come up with solutions and enhance their work that can uplift living standards in developing countries, improving productivity and decreasing the income gap. In addition, the increase in productivity because of AI use can lead to business growth and job creation, resulting in increase in labor demand, shifting the demand curve towards the right. Moreover, AI also allows individuals access to the same set of tools and information and lowers the entry barrier for certain complex jobs such as coding, leveling the playing field for all and reducing disparities in opportunities. This increases the supply of workers in the labor market as it opens up more employment opportunities and changes the composition of the workforce, shifting the supply curve towards the right. These shifts puts a downward pressure on the wages of higher skilled workers as competition rises and increases the equilibrium quantity of workers demanded. In the next 5 years, as AI progresses, it is likely that inequality will increase. The use of AI in corporate setting would likely result in displacement of workers from jobs as automation sets in. Moreover, not all demographics have the same access to AI tools yet, leading to wider knowledge and skill gaps. Furthermore, it would take a substantial amount of time before the benefits of AI in the workplace can be seen. Besides, it also takes time for workers to upskill. Hence, it will likely result in inequality to increase in the next 5 years. Understanding of AI and inequality would allow Resorts World Sentosa to effectively incorporate AI into its operation and maximize productivity and profits. With that, I leave you with a summary of the key insights shared today. Thank you for watching.